Hello and welcome to True Crime Diary, a light-hearted podcast on a serious subject. Every 2 weeks we look back through true crime stories to discuss an event that took place on this week in history. I'm your host Mark Decana, and with me as always are my friends Jed Lester.
Hello.
And Rue Turner.
Hello.
So the date we're looking at this episode is the 9th of January, and in 1824 John Thurtle was executed for bloody murder. He committed what is known as the Radlett murder, but he didn't die alone.
So he has an accomplice.
2 accomplices.
A comply.
A comply. It's a fait accompli.
Yes. A fatal comply.
A fatal comply.
What did you say? Thurtle?
Yes, John
Turtle with an H?
Thurtle.
Oh, you haven't said anything other than his name and he's dead. I don't know what they are.
He committed bloody murder.
Oh, right.
So 1824, he was executed.
1824?
Yes.
Happy. Is that? Are we on bang on the date?
We are bang on 200th anniversary.
Hooray.
200 years ago.
Oh,
Cue confetti bombs.
Hey, anyone want a sausage roll? Well, there you go. Happy anniversary.
Well, yeah,
John.
not for him.
What was his other mate's names?
Joseph Hunt, who was the landlord of an inn, and William Probert, who was a merchant of alcohol, basically.
A merchant of alcohol.
Yeah.
He sold alcohol, basically, to inns.
John, Joe and Bill.
John, Joe and Bill.
Were they like normal people, or were they notorious alcohol?
One was an
selling
ex-boxer.
people?
Yeah,
An
well,
ex-boxer.
so, like I say, Joseph Hunt was a landlord of a tavern, and Probert was a dealer in alcohol, a merchant.
Yes.
Whereas Thurtle himself, he was a sports promoter. He was an amateur boxer, and he promoted fights.
Wow.
He's also the son of the mayor of Norwich. So he was
Right.
quite well to do.
Okay.
And he is a former member of the Royal Marines, as they
Right.
were at that time.
Yeah.
So
Was
you'd think
boxing-
fairly fit.
Yes.
Ex-boxer,
Yeah.
Royal Marine.
But do you reckon boxing would have been classed as being well-to-do?
No,
Would
not
that
at all.
Right. Okay.
It was an underworld activity.
Right.
Oxford
okay.
rules, dear chap.
Now I'll just stand here, and you can have 3 punches at me. And then it'll be my turn to hit you.
Well, no, not nearly.
So it was I don't know, in a barn round the back.
Yeah.
It'll be what do you call it? Bare knuckle.
Yeah, knuckle boxing, yeah.
Which is far safer.
It's a lot safer, yeah.
A lot safer.
Is it?
Yeah.
Arguably, bringing in boxing gloves just means you can hit
Yeah.
people more.
Yeah, the objective of putting gloves on is to make it more of a spectator sport. It actually makes it way more dangerous as a sport for the people who take part.
Because
Because the fights go on longer.
It goes on longer.
The
because your hands are protected.
the impact to the head is exactly the same as without a glove, but
And
it goes
you-
deeper into the brain rather than just into the flesh.
if
and the bone.
anything, you also
Yeah.
protect your hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can hit more and longer and harder. You can punch in your hand.
Viewers.
Yeah, so if it was just fisticuffs, then it would be over a
It would
lot
last
quicker.
seconds.
Yeah, it'd be over a lot quicker.
I never thought of it like that.
It'd go bloody almost immediately.
Yes, sir. We've been in there dodging left hooks since before history began to walk.
That's like Formula One. If they would got rid of the cars, it'd be rubbish.
It would just be
Really-
20 people sat on the tarmac,
really,
going.
really bad. It'd be almost unwatchable.
Almost.
It'd be marginally less watchable than it is.
Or archery,
Without the bow.
or the arrow. Without the bow is better, isn't it? Just people throwing a stick.
Well, that's the javelin.
Well, that is true. Yeah.
Big archery, no bow.
Big archery. Yeah. Yeah, right. I'd never thought of it like that. But you're right. It elongates the spectacle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't a boxing glove quite spongy?
Yeah, very.
Well, why does it? You
When-
said it has
not
the
when it's-
same impact.
Not
Yeah,
when
it
it's
does. The
banging you in
force
the
is
face.
still transmitted and still received.
Yeah, but
it's absorbed.
It'll provide a sponge-like.
So it's transmitted into the brain rather than into the
See, for
structure.
instance, right, on the table in front of us, Rue's just cooked a focaccia. So if I punched you now, and then I punched Mark with that focaccia in front of his face, he would be
really annoyed, probably.
Yeah.
he would have salty
I get
wheat all over him. No, he would be less injured
on the surface.
on the surface. Yeah, it would protect my epidermis, but the impact.
Right. You're talking about. I'm talking about. He's cut his nose. You're talking about his brain, basically, aren't you? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, right. The capture boxing. Anyone?
Just like Mama used to do.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
So a boxer and a hotelier, let's call him that, and off bloke who owns an off license.
Well,
Why are they all
Okay.
mates?
With sports and alcohol
Comes gambling.
People like to bet. People like to gamble.
Right. Okay.
And these
I mean, I
guys
understand why the alcohol and the hotel bloke, but
Yeah.
but yes, you're right. You can put it all together, can't
But
you?
he's putting his boxing bouts and gambling
Events.
together
Yeah.
in the inn.
In the inn.
In the inn.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So that's how they would get.
So they were kind of not travelling events. They were just events at his hotel, presumably. Is it? Sorry, his.
Well, here's another place.
and right. Okay.
As a promoter, Turtle would put them on wherever.
It's probably quite big business, wasn't it?
Pretty good
I
money.
don't really know how
potentially,
you
yeah.
publicise it, other than
So
word
people
of
are
mouth.
paying to get in, paying for dromedary earlobes to stack on while they're watching.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And then they're also losing at their gambling.
All of it. Yeah.
Then comes a part that I like the best. It's called da-di-da-di-da-di-da. It's gambling.
And would it have been roll up? Who wants to fight John Bearded Mc? You know, the some big bloke.
John B. Beard Mc.
Yeah.
Muck big bloke.
Punch. The
Davey the punch bag.
would it have been that kind of conveyor belt of?
There would have been that sort of
Nutcases.
event, yeah, as well. But also
that
they would
more
have publicised the big fight, kind of the local hero against the challenger kind of thing.
That was popular in circuses, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah,
sort
exactly.
Oh yeah, that's true.
of the strong man standing up in the ring and challenging anyone.
Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah.
There were some quite famous pugilists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Have I focused too much on my boots and all my fame and my stretchy pants?
Well, there's one that came to mind because there's a portrait of him in the National Gallery. Jem Wharton.
Jim Ward.
Jem. Yeah. Well, it is James, but it was called Jem. 1813 to 1856. He was one of the most successful boxers of his time, mostly based in Liverpool. The thing that's most extraordinary about him, particularly because there's a portrait of him hanging in the National Gallery, is that he's black.
Oh.
And there really weren't many portraits of black people at that time.
And definitely not in the National Gallery.
No.
No. So this is 200 years ago. There's 100 years of bare-knuckle boxing before that. People were matching up for championships. We have heavyweight bare-knuckle boxing champions going back to the early 18th century. So it's only in the last 100 years, not even that we've had gloves. Before that,
Wow.
it was not. And there would be very short matches, obviously. Short
Yeah.
rounds. But there would be famous boxers. So people like going back to Jack Broughton in the early 1700s, who's mentioned in Rookwood, which is the story of the main story that we know about Dick Turpin. And then at this time that we're talking about, 1824, there was a boxer called Tom Spring, and he retired in 1824 as the heavyweight champion. And he got a place. He had ran an inn, surprisingly, in Holborn, where he ran boxing.
He also
matches.
ran.
He ran an inn. He retired to run an inn and arrange.
Oh right,
boxing
so it
matches.
was
So
clearly
kind of
it was a thing.
It's a thing, and
Right,
a whole
okay.
thing.
Wow.
And if you can keep the match going for longer, more bets can be laid.
More bets.
More drinks can be drunk.
Oh right, yeah. Was that also in 1824?
Happy retirement. Very good. When there's a lot of money kicking around,
Yes.
there's a lot of gambling. You get gambling debt.
Right.
Into this scene, you have William Weare, who was a gambler and a solicitor, and he was from Lyon's Inn, which is the area of Chancery Lane,
Right.
You know, you have the inn
Financial heart, yeah. Or
Yeah. It's not an
the
inn
legal
as
heart.
in an inn.
Legal
Yeah.
heart. Yeah.
It's not an inn like an inn,
Oh, right.
like a tavern. It's an inn like an inns of court.
Okay, so get that right, listeners. It's not an inn, it's an inn.
It's not that kind of inn, it's the inn. He was in the inn, but not
Right. I think that's clear.
Okay.
that.
So, how did he get in?
Hey! So if you go to Chancery Lane, this is an area
Yep.
of the city of London. There's basically
It is.
there's Lions Inn, and then there's Temple Inn, and a whole
And
bunch of
it's legal, but it's also minutes, yards away from, well, I was going to say Fleet Street, but so what would you call it? Publicity section or whatever. Newspapers,
the
basically.
newspapers.
Yeah.
So Fleet Street, well, it would have been a river at the time,
The
but,
Fleet River.
It's now just a river of sewage.
yeah, above and below ground. But well, it's Holborn.
Yes,
Is where,
right.
where the boxer retired. But
Right.
so what these inns are is they are residences and are places of work for solicitors. They're all legal offices and residences. Lions Inn, the one where William Weare belonged to, is like an area of disrepute.
Yeah,
You
right.
don't get the best solicitors in.
Right.
In fact, 30, 40, 50
Why would you
years.
go there?
Well, because
Get
Might-
me-
Maybe they're cheaper.
because it was cheaper, yeah.
Ah, right. I was going to say, get me an average solicitor.
Get me a terrible lawyer. This is like a mall lawyer. You know?
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
It's
Yeah,
like
that's a good description. Yeah.
Like a Lionel Hutz.
Lionel Hutz, attorney at law. Here's my card. It turns into a sponge when you put it in water.
Right, yes, okay. Yeah.
So not the greatest, but nonetheless a solicitor.
Yep.
So someone of some standard.
Because it is a
But-
protected employment.
yes,
So you can't be a solicitor unless you have got the qualifications and you've passed all the tests,
yes,
but only just.
but and if you stay in the cheaper area, it's not a very nice
So,
area.
yeah, soliciting of all sorts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, William Weare, being a gambler, would go to the boxing.
Mm.
And in the process of this gambling, Thurtell, the boxer promoter, he ran up a debt to William Weare of £300
Gosh.
So he,
In the 1820s.
in the 1820s.
he, having not paid out, is that where the debt?
Yes,
Because
well-
Weir would have been the better, and Thurtle would have been the
Bookmaker.
yeah. That's how it would have been, wouldn't it?
Arguably, it's not entirely clear. I don't know if this is from one instance or if this was many repeat bets that Thurtle hadn't paid out on, but ultimately...
Sounds quite a lot of money, though, doesn't
Yeah, I
it?
mean, you'd think for a sum that large,
Yeah.
it would be repeated
It's probably
build
lots
up
of-
of debt, yeah.
Lots of debt. It's one of those situations like, oh, I owe you 50 quid. Well, why don't you let it ride on the next
Yeah.
bout? Sort
Oh,
of
yeah,
thing.
double or quits.
Double or quits.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
So those so £300 a year, where people might have been earning, I don't know, £10 a year.
Yeah.
Right, so 300 quid. Bloody hell.
300 quid is it's over 25 grand in today's money. But
Right.
we do this a lot. This is the direct equivalent. But
Yeah.
what 25 grand now would buy you
Is
I mean,
nothing.
It's nothing compared to what it
Yeah.
would buy. You would buy a lot. You would buy
sure,
a decent house.
Absolutely.
Or probably a couple of houses.
Several
back then. So
Right, okay, so he was in his debt.
he was in his debt.
But he was a upstanding solicitor, so he probably chose the legal way of getting his money, did he?
Well, the solicitor is our victim. He's the one who is owed money.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
He is.
So he's the victim. Right, okay. So he hasn't done anything. He's literally done nothing wrong.
He's done nothing wrong.
But I mean,
Thought he was-
he's accused of cheating, though, is he not?
Yes, he was accused of cheating. So
Yeah,
Thurtle owed Weare £300.
Yeah.
But he thought that this was based on cheating.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic to get out
You owe
of
me
it.
this. No, you cheated. I'm not paying you.
Yeah.
And then all bets are off because suddenly he's been sullied with the, have you heard, he's cheap.
Exactly.
Cheaters never win.
By whatever method the
Yes.
debt was accrued.
They claimed it was via cheaty means.
Yes. So Thurtle decided that he wasn't going to pay. Instead, what he would do is he would invite him and his friends Hunt and Probert to go to Probert's cottage near Radlett, Hertfordshire, for a weekend of gambling and drinking.
Okay.
So he invited along his friend that he owed
Yeah.
fortune.
I was going to say, it seems a bit fishy.
Don't worry about the debt. Look, we're all mates. We're all mates.
Yeah,
Come away. Let's have a weekend of
Come over
fun
to
and-
You never know what might happen. Who might win what over the weekend?
come over to my
Exactly.
isolated cottage,
Yeah.
miles from anywhere.
Yes. So they got into a jig, and there
Got
they went.
into a jig.
A jig.
What does that mean?
I don't mean with a G.
It's
G-I-G.
like-
Not
yeah.
not a dance. A small carriage.
Yeah, small. It's very,
that what it's called?
very light.
A jig?
Yeah.
Little jig.
They're also called a chair or a chase because it was.
Has it got
like,
wheels?
It's quite small. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's horse-drawn.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a hansom of the day.
No, it's because the hansom cab is covered over.
Yeah, this is kind of
This is like an open.
Oh, right.
It's literally
Yes, I
like a platform with a seat on it and a horse in front of it, and away you go.
Right. They got into a jig.
A little spring jig, spring cart. They bundle on there, and then they make their way up to Radlett. And this is in October of the previous year, so 24th of October, 1823.
Yep.
They take their jig from London on the way to
Which would have taken
Radlett.
absolutely hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Hopefully sitting on cushions. 'Cause
Yep.
But a very short distance from Probert's home, Thurtle pulled out a flintlock muff pistol.
Right. I don't know what that means.
It's a very small pistol that you
What's a
hide.
muff?
You hide it
Pistol.
in your muff.
Oh, right. That's why it's called that.
It's called a muff pistol because it would be a small pistol that you would hide in your muff.
And is a muff hand-based or head-based?
It's a hand warmer,
Yes.
typically for the ladies.
Right. So
two-ended sleeve.
Yeah. It's like a
it is, isn't it?
finger trap, but for your whole arms.
Yeah.
And without the trap.
Without the trap bit, you can't take your hands.
So it's very small.
It's very small. Basically,
I'm
it's a
talking
small
about
pistol.
the
It's
gun.
designed for a lady to carry in her muff.
Fine, yeah.
Me without my muff.
And was that a... did people just carry guns at the
Yes.
time? Like, I don't know about everyone, but loads of people who could
Yes.
afford one.
If you were iffy or well-to-do.
Yeah.
When was there was vague police then, wasn't there? Peelers.
No, this is a little bit before. You would have had Bow Street runners, but they would have only
Yeah.
been literally in Bow
So
Street.
there is no police.
There's no police.
And everyone's got guns.
It would have been. You would have had like a local sheriff.
Yeah.
Um,
And you would have had church to provide morals.
and you would have had the army.
Okay. But they haven't been
They would
wandering
have-
around, would they?
No.
They'd have been 1824. They would have just been recovering from Trafalgar or whatever.
That was 1815. That was
Right, no.
1805.
Oh,
and
right,
at sea.
in that case, Waterloo.
Waterloo, 18.
Well, there would have been wars going on.
There would have
that's
been.
my point.
Yeah, there was never not a war at that point.
So it would have been a right old hard life where if you wanted to go and do someone in, you basically just go and do it, basically, don't you?
Yeah, there was no criminology. There were no detectives or anything.
No.
Even when the police
No phones.
started about 5 years later, I think.
Yep.
They weren't detectives. They were just there to keep the order in the street.
Yeah, of course.
So
Break
basically-
up fights
break
or
up
whatever.
fights.
When was the whistle invented?
I don't know. Quite long before this.
I was going to say thousands of years ago.
Okay,
yeah,
fine.
quite a long way before.
So my point is that is the only form of alarm. Basically.
Neolithic rape alarm.
Yeah. No, none of that.
Yeah, sounds awful, doesn't it? Not necessarily no law, because there is law, mainly because we're talking about people who work in solicitors. But I mean, there just isn't. You can do whatever you want, basically, can't you?
Yeah, but also there were over 200 offences you could be hanged for.
Yes, right, okay.
And
So it was
literally,
hard.
you
including
steal more than
a horse.
A horse, you get hanged. Yeah.
Right, okay. So therein lies the morals were, nailed in to people knowing the consequence.
It was basically, you see a wrongdoing, you're expected to do something about it.
Right.
Then you take
okay.
them before the sheriff, and then the sheriff takes them.
The
jails
sheriff
them, and then
agrees
before a
with
judge,
you. Yeah.
and then the judge hangs them instantly.
Yeah, right, okay.
Basically, like the Wild West.
Basically, yeah.
So, Thurtle whips out his muff pistol,
Yes, you said.
and he's shot Weare in the face.
Well, how far out of Holborn are we?
We're way out. We're in Hertfordshire now, not far
okay.
from
All right,
Probert's cottage.
Right, fine. So they were nearly there.
We're nearly there, and they
Shot him in the face.
Shot him in the
He was
face.
probably sitting next to him, wasn't
Yeah, or opposite him.
he? Oh, right, yeah.
There were four of them.
Yep.
But
He missed.
he didn't miss. He shot him in the face, but he didn't die. It's only a very, very small caliber pistol.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd quite like to do
And it was a
that,
flintlock,
actually.
so it was probably a big flash of gunpowder, and then and then the ball dribbled out the
fell onto his lap.
Right, okay. So they couldn't be trusted.
Not really.
Did he have to prepare it?
And then,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he didn't, did he? That's ridiculous.
Pull out my pistol, put the ball in there.
He must have been like practicing doing it blind inside the muff for hours before they left it.
William Weare's like, why are you turning away from... What are you doing?
Don't look.
Nothing. No, look at this beautiful valley.
An eagle, look!
This autumnal scene.
Here in the dark, because we've been travelling most of the day in this dark.
What are you doing
lane.
with that thing? You've just pulled out your big gloves. Right, okay, so he had to do the old light the pan.
He had to
Yeah, so it's flintlock.
gunpowder in,
So
it's flintlock.
yeah.
So gunpowder in the pan,
Yeah.
close the pan, gunpowder in the barrel, put
Palaver.
in the ball, put in the wadding, ram it home.
Didn't it, so you can't do all that hours ago and then put it in your muff? Oh, you can?
Only you were suggesting that you did it in the muff.
Well, I didn't know whether the
was
gunpowder...
prepped.
It'd be no use as a female defence mechanism in your muff if you're getting robbed and you have to go, hang on a minute,
while I
Mr.
load
Robber.
and prep this gun.
Well, I thought it was the pan thing that you had to keep upright, otherwise the
No,
gunpowder
you
would all
close
fall
it
out.
as a lid. You close the lid.
It's got a lid, everyone.
It's got a lid, it's
fine.
got a lid. You get it.
Don't know why I brought it up.
So they've just cocked it, put back the
right. Powder in the pan and then balance it.
Well, that's
there
what I thought it was.
so they would survive.
Oh, God, it's raining.
No, that's why you keep your powder dry.
Well,
Also,
that's why you use a gunbrella, as I've mentioned before.
There you go, see? Go back to our Turpin episode.
Yeah,
where we
exactly.
go through the finer detail of the flintlock pistol.
Right, okay, so ignore everything I've just
So
said.
apart from everything you just said, so he shot him in the face, but Weare survived the blast in the face. Leapt from the jig, but unfortunately it didn't get very far because they grabbed him, and Thurtle had also with him a penknife, which he used to slash Weare's throat.
Dear.
He also beat his face with the gun so hard his brains spilled out.
God.
Yeah, he properly bashed his head in, yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to shoot someone, which is a kind of a fairly... I mean, obviously it's a violent act, but shooting someone is something you can do with little effort. It's just all psychological. But to literally beat someone's brains out and slash their throat,
yeah.
it's
all over money that
overkill.
he owed him.
Yeah. So with Weare now properly dead,
I would say he was dead. Yeah.
the three
The
felons,
others, yep.
they dragged the corpse and hid it in a pond nearby.
Not only nearby where they were, but practically outside the house.
Yeah, and don't forget, this is where Probert, one of the conspirators, lived.
Yeah,
It's his
of course.
cottage, his country house.
Sure.
And they're going, well, let's put a dead body at the bottom of the drive. Chuck it into the pond.
Yep.
They did fairly quickly realise that was a crap place to leave a dead body.
They did, yeah. So they decided instead to go back, drag it out of the pond, and take it and dump it in another pond.
Oh, yeah.
Up the road.
Someone else's pond.
Nothing wrong with the pond. It's not this one.
They took it to the pond up at Elstree.
Was that where Star Wars was filmed?
Yeah.
Yeah, Elstree.
There you go.
Studios,
Yeah.
Just so give you a picture.
Elstree is a village, but it's basically known for...
That's where Star Wars was filmed.
Yeah.
Not 153 years later. Coincidence?
Darth Vader had his face burnt off as well.
He did, yeah.
In a direct and solemn tribute to
Darth Weare.
Now, unfortunately, when they went back to move the body from pond to pond...
From the first pond to the second pond?
Yeah. Unbeknownst to them, the penknife and the pistol had been discovered at the side of the road.
Okay, so they having just left it there.
Yeah, in a dark country lane in the middle of nowhere, within a short space of time while they were gone, someone went, yeah, what's
Hang
this?
on.
And found the
This
weapon.
bloodied knife and gun.
Yeah.
Right.
What's all this then?
Now, having done the deed, they went to the Wagon and Horses pub
To celebrate.
Yep. And had pork chops and copious amounts of beer.
Is that true? You know that? You know what they had for dinner?
I do know because it came up at trial.
Right, what's that got to do with anything?
There's no forensic evidence. You've got to talk about something.
First of all, they've just murdered a man and they've gone to have a slap-up feed.
Sure,
It doesn't paint them in a very good light in terms of moral
that is
turpitude.
quite a natural response to a...
get hungry?
Yeah.
Your experience.
Yeah.
To be, to feel what you want some energy and you want to, I don't know, sit down and have something to eat, basically.
So, yeah, after the rush of adrenaline, once that subsides, you'll feel pretty hungry.
I need some pork.
Pork chops and ale.
And a side of brains.
Yum, yum.
The Wagon and Horses pub is still there.
Wow.
It's been there since 1471.
Wow.
So it was a 400-year-old pub even when they went there.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So these people who found the
knife
and the gun, they went to the authorities, such as they were. Obviously, with their inquiries, very quickly found out that Weare had gone off with these three blokes, one of whom owned a pair of pistols, of which one had just been found in a pool of blood at the side of the road.
Right.
And the other was nice and shiny still in its box.
In his possession. Yeah.
Right.
So they were all caught pretty quickly.
Wow. Oh. That's quite good work, isn't it, by the authorities?
Yeah, in consideration of...
A bit of luck, really.
So the bloke who bought the pair of pistols registered them to somebody, or because otherwise how would they have known?
I don't think there's any gun licensing.
Yeah. First of all, they found the other one of the pair
on a man who lived nearby.
Yeah. Well, the house was the probert was nearby. His cottage was nearby, and then he was mates with these other guys. The other guy had a pair of pistols. He was known to be in debt.
Where's the other one?
Inquiries are not going to. Yeah, it's not very hard to narrow down.
Okay.
There are 8 people in London at this time.
Sure, yeah.
Is it him? Was it you? No, it must have been him then.
It was you. You committed this crime.
You were right. Okay, yeah.
Hunt, the innkeeper, he, having all been arrested, he took them and showed them where the body was, in the hope of protecting himself. Getting off.
Yeah. Classic.
But that didn't help him because authorities turned to Probert and asked him to turn King's evidence in exchange for his freedom, even though Hunt had helped with the inquiry.
Who was the one who did the shooting and the beating?
Thurtle.
Oh, okay. But so the So the police
promoter Thurtle done the deed.
Yeah.
He's helped by innkeeper Hunt.
Yes.
And merchant Probert.
So where's he at this when the other two are being?
Well, he's definitely going to be charged with the murder.
Right. Okay. And how did they deduce that he'd done it?
Well, as I say, Probert, the merchant, told him. Yeah, Hunt showed him where the body was. And Probert turned King's evidence against him. So so in turning King's evidence, basically said, "You testify against those two, and we'll let you off." Which is exactly what happened. First of all, they started building a gallows before the trial even started. So there was some suggestion it might not be...
It's a little presumptive.
It might not be completely free of bias.
Right.
Clark, hand me the black cap, shall you? I've been needing that.
But that kind of thing would have been readily available anyway. If they're not going to use it today, they'll be using it tomorrow, won't they? For that
frequent hangings.
They weren't that.
No?
They weren't. There was a lot of easy ways to get hanged, but they weren't. That didn't mean that everyone was doing it.
All right, fine. So before the trial had started, they decided to... Do you know what?
Build a scaffold. We'll be needing that.
Just... Yeah, okay. That's quite good.
Acme scaffold to the job.
Yeah. When it was revealed that they'd all gone for a hot supper after the murder, and they questioned Hunt about it, they said, "Was the supper postponed?" And he said, "No, it was pork." To hilarious.
Did that get a laugh?
Got a big laugh.
Did it? Yeah. The 18th century humour there.
There wasn't a lot of entertainment.
No.
Also, again, while the trial was unveiling, there was lots of songs and ballads being written.
What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Well, that's how the news was spread. They would spread it in
a song, not in writing it down like a journalist. And
not really. People couldn't read.
You write it down like a journalist and then sing it out loud.
It's the minstrel oral tradition, isn't it?
Right, okay.
Not everyone could read. Most people who would be interested in this were not just the city people, but the common folk who had no entertainment of any kind.
Yeah,
who couldn't afford to go gambling and cockfighting and
everybody. He bashed out his brains with the penknife and gun.
Not far off.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes.
Oh, right, you've got the lyrics.
Would you like to recite
Didn't know
this?
that. Yeah, go for it. I bet my lyrics were better.
Probably. So there's a rhyme that goes, they cut his throat from ear to ear. His head they battered in. His name was Mr. William Weare. He lived in Lions Inn.
It's all right.
And,
it's all right for a draft.
Yeah.
First draft.
That's the first draft. But then there was a ballad written called The Hertfordshire Tragedy. And there's a verse from that, which I quite like. Although his hands were warm with blood, he down to supper sat, and passed the time in merry mood, with drink and songs and chat.
Very good. It paints a kind of nice picture.
Yeah.
Nice jolly...
A very pleasant day out.
Jolly picture. Should we have a nice supper now? We've murdered him.
But also, with all the tales of what happened and being spread in rhyme and ballad, obviously everyone's finding out about this seedy underworld of gambling and boxing.
Because it's publicising it.
Yeah, so actually it drew a lot of attention.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
To the scene, to the social aspects of
Have you not heard the stories?
So, Thurtle himself was hanged on the 9th of January 1824, aged 29.
He was quite young, really.
He was young. Hunt was also sentenced to death, but because he had cooperated in the investigation and assisted, it was commuted to transportation to Botany Bay, Australia, where he served his time and later became a police constable.
Really?
Yep, in Australia.
So our murderers are your policemen.
Well, exactly, very much so.
So he served his time in a prison there.
In the colony, penal colony.
And then got out and
changed his... A reformed man.
Right.
Got married, 2 kids, became a police constable, died in 1861.
Oh, wow. Turned out quite nice.
Probert, on the other hand, who did not receive punishment...
because he squealed.
Was so reviled in the newspapers
that
he became an outcast. He couldn't get work.
So he ultimately... I mean, he didn't necessarily solve the crime for them, but he
testified against the other 2.
And said what happened. But he was then treated as a supergrass or whatever.
Yeah, as a social leper. He couldn't get any work, turned to crime, and the following year he was hanged at Newgate.
Because the opposite happened to him.
Yeah.
He was literally converted to crime.
He was converted to crime.
Oh, wow.
As the outcome, rather than being converted to being an upstanding police officer.
He stole a horse.
Yeah.
Worth £25.
Which we all know
has
a... Wow.
Hanged at Newgate a year later. God. So a year after he got off scot-free from a murder, he was hanged for stealing a horse. Whereas the man who went to transport it to Australia lived a long and happy life.
Wow. That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that was solely came about because of the general public reaction, wasn't it?
Yeah. He was party to a murder.
Yes, he was.
Punished for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So people were furious.
Yes, ultimately he basically helped murder him, didn't he?
Yeah. And any of his criminal friends would have hated him for turning evidence.
Of course he did. Yeah.
It's lucky to get beaten to death in an alleyway.
Right.
Yeah.
But luckily he stole a horse.
Tragic irony or poetic justice? You tell me.
So you get people like Sir Walter Scott writing about the murder, visiting the murder site, and he wrote about it in his diary. A labyrinth of intricate lanes which seemed made on purpose to afford strangers the full benefit of a dark night and a drunk driver in order to visit Gill's Hill, famous for the murder of Mr. Weare. And then he goes on to talk about how the house has fallen into disrepair. And also, Robert Louis Stevenson mentions in his short story Markheim in 1885, there is a reference to him having visited the Chamber of Horrors in a certain wax museum, wherein he saw Weare in the death grip of Thurtle.
Oh, God.
And the reason he would have seen Weare in the death grip of Thurtle is because Madame Tussauds Waxworks had him on display for 150 years.
Wow. God.
And I hope for their own sake that was the same crappy old waxwork piece, and that they didn't just keep remaking him. Like,
it would have been the same one. I'm assuming it's the same then as it is now, but the bodies are always generic bodies. Yeah. They don't matter. So only the face that matters. Only the heads are kept. That head was modelled by Madame Tussauds. She made that.
Oh, wow.
So the chances are, although it's no longer on display, they probably still have it in the archive.
I have seen a photograph of it. It's not bad.
It's not bad resemblance to a charcoal sketch, which is pretty much all we have of what he looked like.
When was it first displayed? When Robert Louis...
At the time.
Oh, that's right, immediately.
In the late 1820s.
So
it would have been there for 60 odd years by the time Stevenson saw it.
And then you said...
it was there another century up.
150, so the late 70s?
Yeah.
1970s.
1970s, yeah.
God. Was when it was finally removed, because they probably had better
because they had more up-to-date killers. Yeah.
There's new film stars to put in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they didn't do topical murderers in the 70s, did they?
They always did topical murders.
Yeah.
Within a week, murderers been convicted.
I'm not sure how, as time passed, how long they left.
Sure.
In the early 19th century, it was on the day they were arrested, let alone before the trial was even over.
Yeah.
But I think as time went on, it was saying, well, this is the killer from a few years ago. We won't do it now. Guilty. Curtain open. But yeah, I think
were they animatronic? It would have been better.
That would have been fun.
I'm doing an action of stabbing someone.
Stabbing action.
Just in case. Oh god, that's just incredible, isn't it?
I think it's amazing. Like last year, they reinstated the Chamber of Horrors, but it's not nearly as big and as many characters as it used to be, because they've made it more. They've upped the ambience rather than the number of people.
Yeah.
Right.
So like there's a thing about the Cray twins. So you walk into the blind beggar.
Oh, do you? Right. I suspect it's more of a greatest hits of baddies as opposed to last week's kidnapping.
Because back then they would have literally just had that's him and that's him and that's him and that's him. Whereas now it's more theatrical.
Yeah, it's like a 3D news feed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So in 2022, 199 years after the killing, there was a jug, an item of pottery, was sold for £7,000.
Wow!
In 2022, it sold for £7,000.
Yep.
It was sold because it was a commemorative jug depicting the murder of William Weare on the side of it.
Really?
Good grief! But then, jugs were really common, weren't they? Toby jugs, celebratory murder jugs.
Yeah, they're the two.
Was that a thing that you put them in a poem and in a song and in a wax museum, and then you put them on some jug.
Put them on a jug.
You would have ceramics. It's like a coronation plate kind of thing. It's the event, the big event of the year. It's exactly like it.
No, it isn't.
It's the same.
It's not like that. What was on it? What was the picture? Brains.
It looks like it's a sort of a woodcut copy, and it's got underneath it says pond in which the body of Weare was found.
Oh God!
It looks like some men recovering the body.
Imagine pouring a glass of water out of that. It's like the pond water where the body was kept.
My commemorative earthenware.
Yeah, and that was sold recently.
That was auctioned recently.
Yeah,
£7,000. More money than
which was actually 35 times the estimate that was on the book. It really outsold what anyone expected.
Oh,
wow.
That's all for this time. If you want to know more about what we've talked about on this episode, then just Google it or something. You can listen to all of our previous episodes on our website. That's www.truecrimediary.co.uk. Please remember to leave a review on your podcast provider if you can, or you can email us. That's stuff@truecrimediary.co.uk. My thanks to Jed and Rue and to all of you for listening, and we'll see you again on the next date in our True Crime Diary.